China is home of 20% of the global human population and contains 7% of the world's farmland. In addition, the country is a major producer of rice, wheat, maize and potatoes. With such a huge influence on national and global food security, it is critical to make sure that agricultural production in China is stable and resilient against increasing climate change impacts, and that it can promote the well-being of people and planet. I work on sustainable food production systems at Westlake University to make a difference of how we do agriculture in China and globally. In my group, the Sustainable Agricultural Systems and Engineering Lab, we work on diversified agricultural systems to advance an ongoing food systems transformation. With agricultural diversification at its core, we have three main areas of work in which we use tools from data science, meta-analysis, spatial analysis, and AI-based embedded systems. First, we synthesize large amounts of data to understand the big questions in diversification research. One of the main projects is, for example, looking into long-term effects of diversification practices. Do known effects on global crop yields, financial profitability, pest control and pollination, but also climate change mitigation remain stable over time, or do they maybe even increase in benefits? We use data from thousands of scientific publications and open data sets to answer these questions through meta-analysis that are of critical importance for policymakers and farmers alike. In our second pillar of work, we're using lab and field experiments to improve sustainability in agricultural production systems. We are interested in two main topics here. How can diversification help to mitigate pollution? And what is the role of ecological tools to improve sustainable production in tree crops? We are using novel AI-based methods to track individual and quality level pollutant effects on bees to then predict the impacts on food production. I want to use our work on natural cocoa pollination to increase cocoa yields in sustainable agricultural systems to introduce our AI-based ecosystem monitoring devices. These cameras are developed in collaboration with colleagues at Westlake University and at Katas in Hainan, where we use machine learning models to detect pretty much anything that meets the eyes. We trained these cameras to detect cocoa pollinators in our field sites in China and Brazil. And we were then not only able, for the very first time, to show who is doing the hard work of pollination in cocoa, but we could see how different management strategies of different cocoa systems affect pollinator diversity and flower visitation rates. Ultimately, our AI-based ecosystem monitoring devices can not only help us to understand how sustainable cocoa systems with higher yields need to be managed, but these cameras are very versatile and can also be used, for instance, for rice pest management. Our spin-off company Econnect Limited is not just selling these devices for research, but we also use them for environmental education projects for Westlake University and high school students. The third pillar of our work is on knowledge transfer of our results into the hands of decision makers in China and across the world. One important area of work is to aggregate our results in a useful format for policymakers to then implement them into useful policies. Our last year's work on how diversification can support achieving China's sustainable agricultural goals from the farm to supply chains has, for instance, been proven useful for the 2023 first central document, the country's major agricultural policy. This work is not just very important to translate research into impact, but it is also exciting to work with so many different personalities in China and globally. When I look back at the 4 years of Sustainable Agricultural Systems and Engineering Lab, I'm very proud of how far we have come in terms of research impact and as a team. As a researcher, impact means not just high-impact publications, but changing the course of action for people. And this we have done by publishing the world's first 40 years aggregation of data on a practical way forward for sustainable and resilient rice production in China and globally. None of the work we're doing to advance the global food systems transformation would be possible without my fantastic, diverse and international team. Members of our team come up with their own ideas. Then they reject their ideas if they are not as good as they should be, and then really pursue the things that make a big difference. Our previous team members have published their work in top-tier journals including Nature Food and also landed permanent positions in China and Europe.